invite you to continue standing, and we'll join in the pledge to the flag. I'm going to call on our Chief Deputy, Todd Grimes, to lead us in prayer at this time.
We'll bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you, Lord, for every seat that has been filled this morning, Lord. For each and every mind and every heart, we thank you, Lord. We pray for that you give us the wisdom, the guidance, Lord, to make the decisions and make the statements that need to be made, Lord. Lord, we know only that you truly know that what we are set out to do today, Lord, and accomplish. We ask, Lord, that we pray for safety at this meeting, as well as our family members who are going out to vote, Lord. We pray for their safety and come home safe to us, Lord. We ask, Lord, to bless this meeting today and all those present, as well as the lives that we will encounter afterward. Lord, let's make us ready, make every moment count, and bless each and every one here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do appreciate your attendance today, your interest in the business of the commission. We have several here who are desiring to speak on an issue that involves some comments on social media by one of the commissioners. A number of you were in attendance at our last meeting and expected or demanded to speak at that time, but we abided by our standing practice and rules of procedure, which require that folks sign up three working days prior to our meetings. There are a few things I'd like to make note of before we proceed. First, it's my responsibility as chair to preserve decorum and order, and I failed to accomplish that at our last meeting, but I intend to do so today. Each person speaking will be allowed 3 minutes, and I'll time that. Each person should address the commission body and direct any questions that you may have to the chair. Any comments that are irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous shall not be considered orderly, and I'll call them so and ask you to refrain. You may not refuse to comply with a caution or directive from the chair. We had more folks sign up to speak at our meeting today than set forth in our rules. Our rules state 2 people, 3-minute time limit, and we had a number more than that sign up. To allow more to speak would call for a suspension of the rules, and I'll ask if there is a motion to suspend the rules by the commission. There being no motion to suspend, then we'll allow 2 to speak on each side of the issue at hand. And I've been given those that are amongst the body have been chosen to speak. Harriet Hubbard will be first, and then we'll go to Blaine Wilson, and then to Michael Jackson.
I believe I asked to speak last, Mr. Wallach.
You mentioned that to me, but I already had it set. Harriet, if you will, just come ahead. Thank you.
Is that all the speakers you're going to allow?
For right now, Buster.
First of
I'll
all,
come back to you.
first of all, I want to say that I don't think that there is anybody in this room that would say the person that we're talking about, that we've come to discuss, is a bad person. Everybody says very nice things about the person in question. He's a nice person. He does good things for good people. But for lots of people. But we don't get stars in our crown for doing nice things and good things. This is something that the good Lord expects of us to do. So we don't get any stars for that. Now, when we left this meeting a month ago, 4 people asked to address the commission at the next meeting. And the following weeks, another 5 people asked to be on the agenda for a total of 9 presentations. Last Friday, July the 3rd, about lunchtime, Greg White called and informed me that only 2 people would be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each. This was a complete surprise and contrary to what we were told or led to believe that day. There is no handbook for the Covington County Commission. I've asked for it twice. Rules are made as they go. And for this reason, our group will attempt to speak at the next meeting when all concerned citizens will have an opportunity to speak, much like they were allowed to speak when citizens were questioning the site of the new mental health center, the new mental health facility. How many people were allowed to speak that day on the agenda, Mr. White?
Sorry, don't recall.
It was 8.
Okay.
It was 8. And they were allowed to speak as long as they wanted to. You cannot change this practice of not allowing. You cannot continue this practice of not allowing your constituents time to speak freely their concerns. Obviously, from the looks of this room, there are some things that are bothering people that need to be addressed, and it certainly is going to take more than 3 minutes to address them. Therefore, we petition the council again to allow each person that wants to speak to be allowed to speak. And in the meantime, you might want to start writing a manual that includes a mission statement, a code of ethics and conduct, and processes and procedures. And you might even take a trip to Montgomery and find out what lynching really means and what it is. You'll learn about vigilantes and their part in lynching. Hopefully, when you leave the museum, you will leave with a different heart than the one that you came with. For the next meeting, I'm requesting that Mr. Joe Nix, Reverend Darrell Calloway, and a representative from the state NAACP be allowed to speak. 3 minutes is not enough time. Most Baptist preachers pray longer than that. You brush your teeth longer than that. This is not enough time, and I'm asking that the commission allow them a reasonable amount of time to address the issues that they would bring forward.
Ms. Harriet, time is up. It's
You owe it to the voters in your district.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, one other question. Are you going to allow us to speak
That'll be up to the body.
for 20 minutes?
It will be up to the body.
So, okay. Y'all see what we're doing now.
Next scheduled to speak is Blaine Wilson.
Excuse me if you don't mind, don't count this against my 3 minutes. Good morning. As you know, the purpose of the County Commission meeting is to conduct the business of Covington County, its finances, its policy, and to ensure the business of and day-to-day activities of Covington County continue as required by law. This commission meeting is not the place for personal attacks or the place for political attacks from one side of the aisle, whose sole intentions are to disrupt and destroy a person's good name and character. I want to remind every person in this room today, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, that in America, we have the right to run for office and be heard. The U.S. Constitution ensures every law-abiding American the right to run for office and attempt to be elected to that office. If your mission today is to attempt to tongue lash our duly elected Commissioner, Tony Holmes, because you feel you've been wronged, I encourage you to find out when the District Commission seat is up for re-election, qualify to run in this Commission district if you reside in the district, pay your qualifying fee, fill out the necessary paperwork, assemble your team of supporters, subject yourself and your family to everything public scrutiny and to a full examination of everything you've ever said and done in life. I'll then see you at the courthouse on election night to see how your political movement is accepted. You see, this is how the political process in America works. It's not using local dying print news media allies who have comprised their journalism integrity and who've joined your cause for obvious political party preferences. using pitchforks, of course, or attempting to hijack a commission meeting to defame a man who has devoted his life to serving his fellow man. Tony Holmes is a man that loves God, his country, freedom, and will lay down his life to defend it. To those of you who are a part of this cancel culture, whose sole purpose is to cancel politicians, presidents, police, school, elections, the economy, history and monuments, and cancel God and everything that makes America the greatest country in the world, and who came today to spread hate, fear, and attempt to cancel Mr. Holmes' time on the commission to which he's been duly elected, may I remind you that just because you and a few of your friends are the loudest does not necessarily mean you are the most. Here's the bottom line. In America, everyone is entitled to his or her opinion on their personal social media page. On March the 1st of 16, Holmes was elected the Republican primary vote by 53% margin. In 2016, he had no Democratic opposition in the November general election. In March of 2020, he had no Republican opposition in the primary. And in the upcoming November general election of 2020, if the Democrats will allow it to happen, Commissioner Holmes has no Democratic opposition. Therefore, he will serve 4 more years as our District 3 Commissioner. There's no website with names from people who can't vote and don't reside in Covington County, nor a Montgomery NAACP organization with no local organized chapter or board, nor a local dying newspaper, or a handful of a few local offended Democrats who will change who our county commissioner is in District 3 from now until 2024. You don't have to like it, friends. It's just how it is. And to Mr. Holmes, the majority is with you. Stand tall, sir.
Okay, thank you, Blaine. Next.
Why you allowed to speak?
Sir,
Why you allowed to speak on the subject and we can't?
folks signed up, and then I was told there was one speaking for the group today. Hey, just bear with me. Mike.
Good morning. My name is Michael Jackson, and I'm a local business owner. I'm a lifelong resident of Covington County. I requested to speak today in support of Covington County Commissioner, Mr. Tony Holmes. I have known Mr. Tony for over 30 years, and I've never known him to be anything but honest, hardworking, reasonable, and fair. I could go on about what a good, honorable man Tony Holmes is, but I'm not. Most of you in this room already know he is all of those things. You know that because you knew him prior to this, or you have gone out in an attempt to determine who he is as a result of this controversy. During your inquiry, you have learned what I just said about him is true. Instead, I want to spend my time talking about unification. During my life, I have never seen our great country as divided as it is today. Now, that division has spread into our small part of the world. It is truly a shame that we have allowed this to happen. It is almost unbelievable to me. As I mentioned earlier, I have lived here my entire life. I was educated here, I'm married and have raised a family here, I have owned and operated businesses here, I have volunteered and coached youth league sports here. I guess I have been about as involved in our community as a man of my age can be. With those things in mind, I have always been proud of where I lived. I was proud because of regardless of age, economic status, race, religion, or politics, we were all able to get along. Community events, sports events, and common decency towards each other seemed to bring us together. It seemed to make us different. Seemed to make us different than many other parts of the country where people basically refused to get along, called each other names, made threats, and pointed fingers. Yet now, here we are. We stand here today falling into the same traps as communities all across America. We are divided. So here I stand before you, obviously not a public speaker, calling for unity. I am calling for us to remember who we are and where we came from. I'm asking that we stop trying to destroy people when they say things we disagree with, and understand that it's not imperative that we all agree about every statement made by our neighbor. It is simply imperative that we all live together. The attacks on Tony Holmes and his family have been unfair. They have also been politically motivated. Maybe more importantly, the attacks have divided this community. I am asking for this to stop and allow this community to heal. I know who we have always been. I've always been proud of it. I am not proud today. I am ashamed. I ask everyone here to join me in unifying this community and trying to return to we have been my whole life. Who knows, we might even be better off than we were before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
have, we've had one address the, I'll refer to the Harriet side, just because you spoke, on one side of this issue, Harriet. If, commissioners, is there an interest in opening the floor for another one to speak, in that? I was told Harriet was gonna speak for the, as the only voice this morning. So you've indicated you're gonna make requests for the next meeting, and we will certainly review those. All right.
Am I understanding that you are saying that, if someone else would like to speak?
I was asking the commissioners if they would like to allow another one to speak, because we had scheduled one. At this point, that's right.
But how did you get 3 people when you said you were only gonna have 2 to speak?
We're gonna have 2 speak, on each side of the issue.
So where's the opposition?
That, I
I just
know.
heard 2 proposers.
Yeah.
Where's the second opposition?
I think it requires two, so we can discuss it after.
I'll discuss that as we leave. What I'd love to do at this time is just take a recess till 9:30, and then we'll reconvene the meeting. Thank you,
Mr. Chair, I've been on
I'll-
the list to speak for some time.
and I'll come back to you.
You will?
Yes, sir.
Oh, praise the Lord.